Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show on Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ET Now's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center on every industry and every area that matters to you. Tonight on the show, Direct Connect, experts will answer your questions, and later on the show, a conversation on the health market. That's coming up on Leader Focus tonight. Anita, Mr. Dalal, thank you both very much for being with us here today. Let's kick the show off with a query that's coming to us on email. Pankaj Jogani has written to us on our email ID, leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com, where you too, our viewers, can send us any questions you may have for our experts. Pankaj has written in to us to say they face stiff competition from the online market. How do they go about really facing the challenges that have come in? Pankaj has not told us what industry or business he's in, but in one of our previous episodes we did speak about how small businesses have to be internet ready, have to be digital ready. Right. Maybe we can go over some of those points again.
So, I don't know which industry this is, but for a small business today, there is no shying away from technology. You have to be technology ready. You have to embrace technology. And it's not about using just one channel, it's about using multiple channels. So finding those channels through referrals, through your networks, through industry events, and seeing how you can marry the two, to be a more sort of multi-channel business.
Sure. Yeah, like she already said, one has to decide what channel suits you best, or whether it is offline, online, or omni-channel. Like you can use both the channels depending on your nature of business, your size of business.
Sure. All right, Pankaj, do take some of the points that our experts have said about being able to embrace technology and being able to embrace competition that is coming in from online. Our next query is coming to us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. KK Garg has written into us on social media, on our Facebook page that is, to say that his company represents the interests of the electrical induction melting furnace industry. He says his members are engaged in the production of mild steels, low alloy steels, stainless steel, grinding media and special cast iron castings through electrical and electric induction melting furnaces. Very technical there. My question to you experts is how to get lower interest rates and how do we increase production when we're facing working capital challenges? Two-part question. I want to come to you first, Mr. Dalal.
Well, interest rate is a function of what is the cost of fund to the lender. That is the basic thing. Then depending on what security he is offering, what is his credit rating, basically the risk perception of the borrower that the lender sees. So it depends on that, what security you are offering, what is your credit rating. And there is not much difference as far as interest rate is concerned, minor here and there. Maybe banks can give lower interest rate because they have a large CASA. NBFC rate may be marginally higher, but then their credit delivery would be faster. As regards the working capital also, he is asked, like if he should try and get the working capital finance from banks. If he is not getting that, then what he can do is that like he can keep low inventory or optimal level. He can try to recover his receivables faster. He can ask for the creditors more credit so that he can manage his working capital and run the business.
Okay, so that really ties into the second part of his question. We assume he's been trying to raise finance, has had a difficult time, and his working capital requirements are getting impacted. Is raising funds from banks the ideal way to go about looking at your working capital requirements?
Actually, sometimes depending on, your product and depending upon your, business cycles, you may need support on working capital. So if you don't build effective collection processes right upfront in your business, those are the things that really provide a challenge to your working capital. So it's important to focus on that.
All right. That is a very detailed response to your question. Thanks very much for sending that to us. Look at how you can possibly fund your working capital requirements through your internal sources is what one of the things our experts are recommending for you. Our next query is coming to us from Alan Das. Alan has written into us on Facebook to say, since patent only protects the technique of how a product works and not what the product does. For example, he says the mobile phone swipe to unlock, which is an option that is available on phones. He says, what can I do to stay ahead of competition? Not all patented products are essentially marketable products. What checklist should I follow to understand market demand and product fit? He says some of his target customers are high net worth personnel and not easily accessible. As an early stage startup, how can I reach them and create a customer base? 2 points. First, maybe we can discuss the patents that he's talking about.
So, the patent side of your product is, if it's not commercially viable, then it becomes an issue. Then it just becomes, something feel good, stuff to have. So look at the commercial viability of patents. But for him, I would specifically say that he needs to go and present at startup forums where there are investors, there are advisors, and who can help him in seeing how he can make his patent commercially viable. He needs to go and talk to incubators, because they help with building those partnerships, and also looking at where the product fit is there from a larger product perspective. So if this is a small piece in a larger product, he needs to assess that and go and find those partnerships from a larger organization. I don't know what kind of patent this is, so it's hard to say, but all these channels will really help. The startup ecosystem is really mature now. And there are many events and many bodies that one can speak to and to see how it fits in.
We've spoken previously about patents on Leaders of Tomorrow, and while the government, of course, under Startup India is trying to give some financial support, it's very encouraging to see that more and more MSMEs are filing. The broad number, of course, is coming from your big companies, your MNCs, but small businesses are also understanding the importance of patents. Let's tackle the second part of the question. He's also saying high net worth customers not easily accessible through the phone, on email, etc. So if he's trying to expand his customer base, then what would you recommend?
Well, he has to, high net worth individuals, you may not be able to contact them through phone, but there are means of collecting, like email ID or the associations and various means, social media. You become part of that, and you can, high net worth individuals as well as other target clients, he can target through various means.
Okay.
And he can access them, he can tell about the patents. And earlier point also, I just wanted to mention that it is patent under Patents Act and patent rules cannot be only for product, it is also for process. So it's available for both. And there are different methods of marketing, like usual methods.
Yes.
Okay. I just want you to also talk about the networking question that I went to him on. What sort of tips do you give the companies that you look at?
So, it's about finding, one is finding the right advisors for yourself, because through the advisors you open doors to a lot of, in this case, high net worth individuals. But the advisors that come on board right in the beginning, because they understand what you're trying to do and appreciate, your product. I've been an advisor to quite a few startups, and it's very interesting, because through advisors like us, they get their ecosystem opened up.
All right, Alan, that's in response to your question. Thanks very much for sending that to us. Completely out of time on this episode. Anita, Mr. Dalal, thank you both very much for being here.
Thank you.
Time for a break. On the other side, on Leader Focus tonight, a segment on the health market here in India. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight on Leader Focus, we're bringing you a segment on the health market in India. Thank you all very much for being with us here today to talk about what is happening in the medical space. I do know the three of you are from very diverse niches in the healthcare space. So why don't I kick this off by asking you to very briefly introduce what you do to our viewers.
So hi, so I'm Dr. Amit Karkhanis. I'm the director of Dr. Twacha Laser and Cosmetic Clinics and Cocoon Fertility. In Dr. Twacha, we primarily look at the laser and the cosmetic space, where our prime focus is to get technology to the beauty industry. Second, in Cocoon, it's again about the lab space where we actually make infertile couples to help have a child or have a baby.
Okay.
Yeah, continuing on that, I'm Shantanu Pathak, co-founder of Carenex Innovations. We build technologies for better healthcare delivery, mainly empowering healthcare institutions to provide healthcare in remote areas as well as in urban areas. We focus on maternal health. So we have like mobile platform for engaging gynecologists and pregnant women, as well as set of wearables which women can wear and report their health status remotely.
Sure.
That's what we do.
Thank you. My name is Vivek Tiwari. I am founder and CEO of Medica Bazaar. Medica Bazaar essentially is a B2B medical supplies platform. So what we essentially do is to create the largest aggregation of medical supplies in the country in terms of looking at awareness, availability, affordability, in terms of looking at complete range of medical supplies. We're primarily serving tier 2-3 cities in the country, wherein there is a huge gap in terms of looking at medical supplies space. And that's building a lot of inefficiency into healthcare system. As we talk about healthcare delivery cost, affordability being one of the issues, I think somewhere operationally these institutions are suffering because of challenges in terms of procurement in medical supplies. So it's a pioneering platform. We are building one of the largest in the country, and presently we serve about 5,000 plus institutions in the country with a formidable presence across 16,000 pin codes.
Sure. That's an interesting point to make, and I want to pick up on that. When you talk about certain industries in India, whether it's education or healthcare, the role and the reach really of those industries or those companies in tier 3, tier 4 towns and villages of India really is the talking point. I do know that your product, you said, is largely based in Maharashtra, largely a tier 1 urban product. But what is the role and what is the responsibility of companies which are particularly in the healthcare space, particularly in the medical space, to be able to reach tier 3 and tier 4, and what is being done in India from an industry level? Maybe not go so much into company specific details, but what's being done as an industry? Is industry innovating enough to be able to reach the last mile? What role is technology playing?
So let me take it up from the point, let's take the challenge of a manufacturer in medical technology. If we talk about the domestic manufacturing capability, it's challenging because there's been huge pressure in terms of looking at investments from or support from the government side to take up manufacturing as the core initiative. A manufacturer has a longer waiting period in terms of looking at the innovation period. Then beyond that there is a clinical trial period, and there is a go-to-market strategy. So when the period of innovation and clinical trial is supposedly ending, at that point of time it does not have enough resources to reach out to tier 2-3 cities. India is a huge country with 130 crore population, 1300 million population. That in that kind of a country we need to talk about more on reaching last mile places population, wherein to make it much more affordable. So that's where the challenge comes in. And if you talk about the existing companies today in India in terms of looking medical supplies, their reach is also challenging because they're not that big in terms of looking at size of the business, existing business, what they're doing. So I think that's where the digital platform plays a vital role in terms of bridging this gap. Gap analysis, putting a complete digital solution to it is the solution going forward. That's where.
So you've raised two interesting points. I'll come back to those, but I want the two of you to also then talk about your specific industries and how you're able to, and what is your industry doing about reaching that last mile.
Now there was a lot of challenge there. I mean, yeah, somehow with the big budget plan they could establish that unit, but the motivation from ground level to connect there, as well as the lack of connectivity, as well as the established protocols were the issues. Industry tried their best but could not establish a very well platform. But then somehow with the improvement of the mobile platform, as well as the mobile phones or smartphones and connectivity, they started thinking reversely, that how bottom up approach can be used. The industry tried to build that system with the budget, not the utility, and the utility was at ground level instead of setting up big centers in the hospitals. That's where they realize now, and they're starting moving with point of care devices instead of building bigger machines. The lesson is simple, that what market demands you have to create from there rather than pushing up into the market.
A product like yours, one would presume largely has a market in tier 1. Correct me if I'm wrong. What is the kind of market that you see in tier 3, tier 4 being able to take maybe especially your fertility product?
So everyone potentially likes to have more hair, look thinner, you know, and have a beautiful skin, anti-pigmented skin. So in that space, so though right now we are in the tier 1 cities, so we also are planning to start up very soon in the tier 2 cities. And also a lot of patients come and travel to the tier 1 or the tier 2 cities from external parts. So as long as the treatments are a one-time solution, that's what we try and cater to. So it's a one-day thing for them where they come one day, they do it and they go away. And they might need to come back in a 2-monthly cycle. As far as the fertility business is concerned, again, it's basically requires a high-end lab to be created, at which point the patients can be addressed or can be treated. For that reason, we also have a hub and spoke model where the spokes are mainly done in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, where they will have 90% of the care taken at that point, and then probably for the final mile, they'll probably have to come to a tier 2 center or tier 1 center and get that done.
How about costing? Does costing of your products in a tier 1, does that vary from what you can offer in other markets?
I think it's quite affordable across, so potentially we try to be as available to a diverse audience as possible. And in fact, people do perceive cost to be a barrier, but in fact it's not. So the treatments are not as expensive as perceived. So I think it's something which everyone can afford, and usually we see that among the patients whom we cater to.
I understand you had a question.
Yeah, so you know, supply chain in medical devices is a big issue. Not only supply chain, once you have a device, there's a lot of issues around the calibration of it. So I may ask you, like, are you trying to see something around that, how you're going to solve this problem?
I think you rightly pointed out supply chain, as we already identified the gap and we're working on it. Procurement supply chain is a big issue in terms of looking at medical supplies today, especially reaching out to tier 2, 3 institution. And on top of it, servicing, as we talked about, calibration is going to be another set of problems. We see a lot of servicing inefficiency in terms of looking at medical devices, medical equipment.
But is it as bad as what we see in the manufacturing industry, for instance, where most of the equipment has to be imported into India? Is that changing?
It's not changing much at this point of time. For obvious reason, medical technology predominantly has been imported in India. If we talk about large size medical equipments, something is starting with a CT scan machine or an X-ray, are primarily imported. India has challenges in terms of manufacturing medical devices. From different sides, there is a huge challenge to look at, from capital availability to government support initiatives, dearth of marketing opportunity. There's a lot of challenges. Government itself puts in a lot of riders while procuring medical devices. They are putting CE, US FDA as different criteria. Yeah. How are you promoting your indigenous manufacturing if you are putting such criteria in place? Okay. So you're not promoting your own, medical. Like if you go to a market like China, China is very high in terms of medical capability, only because government has supported and created their own regulatory platform like CFDA, China FDA, wherein they are telling that anyone procuring a medical device in China just needs to have a CFDA certification. That's where, the government effort has to be much stronger here in terms of looking at indigenous production of medical.
Okay, Vivek was talking about government regulation, for instance, and I want to talk to our viewers about what some of the biggest challenges are for any entrepreneur who's looking at this space. Would government regulation come way up there?
So especially in the fertility space, it's something which we recently faced. So overnight there were some government decisions which completely changed the industry, where they said, say, surrogacy for foreigners will not be allowed. So for the whole industry it was a shocker, because it was something which was a big business, and a few centers used to just concentrate on that part of business. For them overnight it was something like they had to innovate, or they would not stand a chance. So it's something, there are always the draft regulations which are there up to look for. So it makes a lot of sense, someone starting out, to always check through the draft, because at some point of time there is a possibility that could be implemented. So looking at everything in the draft lines, I think that would be a good start.
Shantanu, there is clearly enough innovation happening in your space. You were just talking about IoT, for instance. What is the way forward, do you think? There are more and more of these companies being set up who are also then looking at innovation?
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity out there. When you have like one gynecologist beyond 2,000 pregnancies, it's difficult to manage, and that's where technology has to play a role. And the gap is very much identified, the companies and startups, and I see with technology they'll be able to bridge this gap over the period. But quality care is something that everyone has to focus, and that's where we'll be playing crucial role.
Okay. Dr. Amit, Shantanu, Vivek, thank you very much for being with us here tonight. All right, that's our show tonight. If you have any feedback for us, or you have any companies that you think should be featured here on the show, you can always email us at leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com. You can reach me personally on Twitter. Sunanda_J is my Twitter handle, or LOT_ET now is our official Twitter handle. Our Facebook page is Leaders of Tomorrow and ET Now. You can also call us on that number you see on your screen. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.